Hello, everyone. You're listening to Monday Night Chats with Dazz, and it is week 19. Um, I was thrown a little bit off as far as just keeping track of time with everything that's gone on. For those of you who didn't see the update in the community tab or the Facebook update or the tweet, my dog, or my family's dog, I should say, he passed away on Valentine's Day, the night of it, and he had been sick for a couple of years because he got diagnosed with arthritis. But we knew that it was coming. We just didn't think it would be that soon. And I'm glad, though, that he's no longer suffering. But, when you have a pet, they're like a part of the family. Hi, Andrew C. How are you? And I figured with that and just being kind of out of it from a busy week that it'd be a good chance to do another Q&A session. Hi, Nixie. And so any questions that anyone has over anything related to the channel, current events, or in general, feel free to ask them. I know that everyone, at least in the mainstream, is talking about the Florida high school shooting, and we're going to keep hearing about this because it's all a push to implement gun control. But in all honesty, like most of these shootings, it seems like all the talk dies down after a couple of weeks, and I think that's what will happen, especially with Trump in office. And I see Andrew C. said, and let me put the chat on screen real fast, guys. I'm sorry. I see Andrew C. said if there will be any guest on tonight, and I don't have any planned guest for tonight to answer that question. Okay. I see Nick C. said, "Poor kids, so sad, just young teens." Yeah, there's been a heightened occurrence of school shootings, and there are those out there who consider these to be hoaxes or false flags. At this point, it just seems like whether or not you believe it happened or did happen, it's still just a tragic thing. Hi, Ben. And when it comes to like the politicizing of like these sort of issues, it's just frustrating because, you have people on the left talking about gun control. You have people on the right making it a mental health issue. Hi, C Monstar. And it seems like, both making it into either issue is its own problem within itself, because obviously it does take a person to pull the trigger, but at the same time, making every person who has a mental health disorder or making those with mental illness look like they're more susceptible to being criminal is its own negative path to go down, because there are plenty of people who are diagnosed with mental health disorders who have no criminal history whatsoever, but every time there's a school shooting or just a shooting in general, the first thing people jump to is, oh, they were mentally ill. And it does reinforce this idea that people with mental illness are more likely to be active shooters. And it also doesn't help that there's so much television shows and movies where mentally ill people are killing people, because there's plenty of people who are undiagnosed with anything and aren't mentally ill that are doing these things. And then, of course, making it about gun violence every time something happens is its own just problematic thing. But hi, Kevin Arthur Zyminski Jr. And I see Nick C. said, more security guards with guns at school. Yes. There probably will be more of that after this shooting, because they're going to say that they need to increase security in schools in order to keep this sort of violence down. And I see that Nick C. said, the shooter said demons told him to do it, which is interesting. That is interesting that you say that. I haven't really, besides like just headlines, I haven't really had time to look so deeply into it. But it does seem that's a common theme with a lot of people who do a lot of these awful things, is that something was talking to them, be it demons or the devil told them to do it. And I also believe sometimes they use electronic harassment or technology to drive people crazy as well. Andrew C. said, "You heard when Joy Bear, however her name is spelled," and I'm sorry if I'm saying her name wrong. I don't know if it might be Bahar, from The View, said that if Jesus talks to Christians, you have mental illness. Yes, I do remember that. And that's the other double edged sword, too, of the whole mental health. It seems like if people are so desperate to make everything about mental illness, you have to ask yourself, where is the line drawn of what's mental illness and what's not? I mean, even from a non theological standpoint, for those of you, I'm not sure if you've heard of the book, The Myth of Mental Illness by Thomas Szasz, a psychiatrist who challenged the idea of mental illness in his time. I think the book was written in like the 60s or 70s. And he broke down how often a lot of these big pharmaceutical companies, as well as psychiatrists, label people mentally ill based on what people perceive as deviant behavior. And deviant behavior is just anything that's abnormal. And even though we live in a quote unquote Christian nation, as some would like to put it, it's not really considered normal or popular to say that you hear from God or that you hear from any spirit whatsoever. People act as if you hear from God or you hear from Jesus or the Holy Spirit, even if you hear from the devil or demons, there's something wrong inside of your head. And so it doesn't leave room for actual spirituality in terms of hearing. It's okay to say, I prayed and I was talking to God. But as soon as you say God spoke to me, it becomes suspicious to people. They think you have some sort of mental illness or of some sort. And I think that's a problem. And then even for those of us who even for those who don't pray or those who aren't religious, sometimes just behavior that's considered abnormal or a threat to the social order can be perceived as mental illness as well. So the question is, where is the line drawn? Because grief was added to the Diagnostic Statistical Manual 5 that was updated in 2013, and I believe there's another one coming out soon. And grief is something that people go through when they lose someone or they experience a loss of some sort. And I lost my dog. I could say there was some grief there, but if I felt grief at the time, would that mean I need pills for the rest of my life? It just seems like a way for big pharmaceutical companies to make money off of a problem. And now they're adding playing video games for too long of the period to the Diagnostic Statistical Manual as a mental health disorder as well. So it just keeps growing, and big pharma's pockets keep getting fatter. And I see that Nick C said Fox News violated her rightful so liberal hypocrisy. They mock Christians but always talk about love and tolerance. If it was a Muslim, she wouldn't have said it. And if she did, she would have got fired. Yes, I agree with you there. It does seem like, and that's the thing, I think that's the problem too with all of this, even with this whole liberal conservative thing, and high understanding conspiracy. So even with this whole thoughts and prayers ordeal, those on the left, and I hate to make this all political, but there's no way around it every time a situation comes up, because I think both sides are guilty in their own way of spinning things and making things worse. But on the left, they're mocking the idea of thoughts and prayers. They're saying thoughts and prayers aren't working. We need action. The action is gun control now. And to me, it's just insane that, first off, that every time a shooting happens, these people are making it about gun control right away. Anytime a tragedy happens that involves guns, it's trending on Twitter right away that we need gun control now. But also, just getting it inside of the general public's head that thoughts and prayers have no value or that they don't really work is its own form of social engineering, because people who maybe are more agnostic or who are weaker in faith, they're going to think to themselves, you're right, maybe guns, maybe thoughts and prayers do not work whatsoever. So it is a way to kind of demean prayer and a way to demean God. And I do think that action is important. Pushing for policies can be important, but it's all a way to also kind of attack Christianity in its own way. But I also think that the right, making this all about mental health, is its own problem as well, because, as stated earlier, not all mentally ill people are prone to violence, and a lot of people who consider themselves more right leaning tend to identify as Christian. And if they're not careful with the way the left is making fun of Christians, maybe having an illness for hearing from God, they can end up pathologizing themselves and making themselves look like they have a mental illness as well. And I don't take sides with either political party whatsoever, but that's what I see going on with this whole situation and other situations that are similar to it. Kevin Arthur Zyminski Jr. said, no left and right, good and evil. I agree with you there. And Ben said, I think with grief, depression, and talking about how games, etc., make you depressed, blah, 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 blah. I think moderation in life generally is good. Having obsessions is unhealthy in anything. I agree with you there, Ben, as far as having obsessions is unhealthy regardless, like, of what it is about. I think it really depends, because I guess there can be people who do nothing but like sit in their room all day and play video games and eat pizza pockets, and they're not going outside, they're not making human contact whatsoever. But I also feel like some parents might see their kid maybe playing video games instead of doing homework, despite them going out and decide, hey, my kid has an illness, and the problem is, how can you measure it? I see Hi Roused, and I see that they said hi Dazz and all other beautiful beings. Hi Gigi. But yeah, it's just one of those situations that's so difficult when it comes to all of this. I mean, I feel like it's multi-layered, and these tragedies that occur, they always bring out the worst in a lot of people. I mean, people gather together and they offer their condolences, and then politicians come out and they push certain agendas, and then by the end of the day, or by the next month, it's gone, it's forgotten, and there's another tragedy to talk about or another political scandal to discuss. But it does seem like they're going to really push with this. I heard that in March, like late March, there's a march planned by the high school students in DC over gun control. So they're really trying to take this and really run with it. Rouse said, left or right, red or blue, all discrimination and both not seeing love. I agree with you there. I mean, when it comes to, like I said, politics, for me at least, I don't have a political affiliation, never have. I was raised independent, and there's been times where I agreed with either side on certain issues, but it does seem like for those who attach themselves too strongly to either party, the thing that makes me sad about this is maybe it's just part of getting old and realizing that politics and religion and sex are things you shouldn't bring up in a discussion, but it seems like people get so angry at each other for being conservative or liberal, and I don't understand why you would be so angry at someone for being either political party. I mean, I understand they both have their flaws and both can be wrong on certain issues, but it's just the idea that for some people it ruffles their feathers so much. Nixie said the right-wing Republican side usually has Christian values. I would say that they do market themselves as the party of values, but at least from what I've seen, it seems like there are people obviously in there that do have values, but then there are those who I feel like exploit Christians through getting them to vote Republican as well. Kind of like how Democrats exploit, oppressed groups like minorities, women, the poor to vote Democrat. I feel like both do that to some extent. Ben said, the thing, a gun can kill maybe 30 people with one magazine, but if you had a knife in close proximity, you could kill 50 easily with a with the right instincts. The greatest weapon is the human mind. Yes, it's true what you're saying, Ben. Essentially, it's up to that person and how many people die, and maybe how skilled they are as well. And you could say, like you said, ban all knives, but obviously they want to disarm a lot of civilians. And I also lean toward the side of, as I believe it was Niels when I had him on, and Pilgrim's Progress, which I see neither of them in the chat at the moment, but they did bring up, I believe it was those two, that sometimes it does seem like maybe they won't disarm everyone because if they want to create civil unrest or even an internal civil war of some sort, whether it's between people of different races, whether it's between liberals and conservatives, whether it's between police and civilians, that there would need to be guns for that in order for that to happen. And that's a way to reduce the population and bring in another form of control. C. Monstar said, liberals are now socialists and conservatives are now Democrats. That's an interesting my mind's leaving me. That's an interesting observation. It does seem like liberals and conservatives today aren't anything like they used to be in the past, or at least their parties have evolved from the past. Andrew C. said, it's a heart problem, not a gun problem, but a lot of people don't understand that, sadly. Nick C. said, yeah, guns don't kill people, people kill people. Rouse said, people have been set in their ways, they were taught such, and for them to relearn all they were taught and admitting false is extremely difficult for anyone. I agree with you there, Rouse. If you're brought up a certain way and someone tries to tell you anything differently, you're going to be defensive of it and you're going to be critical of it. And most people engage in confirmation bias, which reinforces one's beliefs, whether they're true or false. Hi, Jazz Traficante, and I see that he said the problem is that no one knows how to have a conversation without insulting one another. I agree with you there. I mean, it's really sad because even what people call like conversations or discussions anymore, it's just people like cussing each other out, making fun of the way people look, making fun of, any and everything about the individual. And that is the thing I hate about like trying to talk to people who might have a different opinion, because I feel like I have to be very careful, because at least I think at least when you hit a certain age, you learn not to lean on insulting someone based on how they look or their name or where they come from, but actually, pointing to where there are errors in what they're saying, or at least acknowledging this is where I agree with you up to this point, this is where I disagree with you. But it feels like a lot of people, they get really defensive and they just go straight into the insulting phase right away. And that's why I feel like people get very cliquish with what they believe, and everyone kind of groups up together, and when anyone disagrees with them, they all earn a large number of people and they can pounce on them. Ben said, a tool is a tool. I can use a hammer in many different ways, and I can use guns in many different situations. Context is key. Why was the gun used? How was it used? And who used it? And how did they get it? I agree with all those observations there, Ben. It really does matter as far as the user and, like you said, the context. Jazz Traficante said, just think of Super Bowl fans. They will literally destroy town. That's true. I mean, it's crazy how, like, the Eagles won, but yet they tore up their own city. Kevin Arthur Zyminski Jr., I'm sorry, guys, my tongue today. Judging, mocking, and scoffing. And Jazz Traficante said, right, I can feel very isolating when you can't discuss these things with the people around you. It does feel isolating, especially, like, when you have to hold your tongue on certain issues because you don't want to, like, disturb the peace. But It does seem like, especially now that, and the other thing too, I think is since there is social media where we can all communicate, it is a great thing, but it also can be, there can be a downside too. Because if you, like, say, are on Twitter and you tweet certain things, you will attract a certain group of people to you that will, of course, reaffirm what you believe, and there'll be people that will jump on you and attack you as well. And people didn't necessarily have the liberty to get on the internet and state what they wanted to state. They may have kept it to themselves in the past because they didn't have social media, but now people can do it. And this allows new forms of arguments and insults to take place. And this can lead to cyberbullying and cyber stalking if people hate what you said enough. But it's bad enough in real life as well. But I feel like the strongest and most insulting things people say anymore happen on the internet because a lot of people behave a totally different way offline than they do online. Rouse said the shootings are created more to invade your home without a warrant rather than gun control. We all have guns. They don't want to climb that mountain. That's a good way to look at it, too. It does seem like from these shootings, if anything, even though, the whole talking points about gun control and mental health die down, there does seem to be, and even as I believe it was Nick C above mentioned, like, increased security in schools, and then as you pointed out, even coming into people's homes to make sure that they're not doing anything wrong or they're not being invasive. Even this whole side story about how the FBI knew about his threat on YouTube because he posted that he was going to shoot up a school or something like that, and the FBI saw that, but they didn't act on it. It does open the discussion like, you got to be careful what you post online because you might have the FBI at your door. And we've seen other cases of this as well, where people made posts online threatening to harm a president or someone, and of course, they got in severe trouble. And this is why I don't believe in posting anything like that online, but it does seem like it's a way to monitor the internet in general. Jazz Traficante said, I don't identify with either party, but the left SJW crowd is really kind of tapped. Hi, Craig Gaddis. Andrew C. said, FBI is noise. Rouse said, FBI alligator tears. Yes, I mean, it's all a part of them trying to get more control, in my opinion, over what we're able to post and what we're not able to post, and even just scare people, but also to get rid of people that might be a threat. Because it might go from, oh, they threaten to shoot up a school, to they hold dangerous beliefs. Now the FBI needs to visit these people because their beliefs are contrary to the mainstream belief. I think we'll get there in due time. Nick C said, I'll be right back, y'all. I'm going to watch an 8-minute Bible study by John Piper. See you later, Nick C. I hope you enjoy that 8-minute Bible study. Hi, Malibu Beats. Ben said, this more looks like to me the FBI don't do S word. If you do, until the tragedy happens, which I think is messed up. I agree with you there. I definitely think to some extent they don't, but then I think sometimes they do. But maybe it's only for important figures. But even if they don't do anything until a tragedy were to happen, it's also a way of now making an excuse to hop on people, even if they weren't going to do anything. Andrew C. said, nosy noise. Dazz, lol. He put the nose in the middle. Craig Gaddis said, I just can listen as I am cooking. I hope some great topics come up. Yeah, if you guys have any topics you want to address, I just started with the shooting because that's what's been happening in the news. It's what a lot of people have been talking about. It seems like there's one of these shootings every few months. We hear about a new shooting. The last one that I really remember was in Texas, and before that, just like a week before, was the Las Vegas shooting. And it seems like shootings have almost become like a part of everyday life, which is a bad thing, but it's not surprising in the times we're living in. Hi, Mr. 310. Andrew C said, LOL Dash, you're pronouncing it wrong. I'm saying no Z. Oh, I see. I don't know why. I see nosy and I think it's so you're saying nosy. Okay. Yeah, my pronunciation sometimes is off on certain words. You can um ask all those who complain every time I mispronounce something. Even when I think I've looked up something online and figured out, like, okay, is this how I pronounce the word? I usually end up pronouncing something I did not look up. And I'm thinking to myself, 23 years and I still can't pronounce certain words, or I still get tongue tied reading from certain things. It really makes me wonder, though, come March, what will happen with this whole march. Gigi said, I've been called Guy Guy. Huh? Oh, I wonder how Gigi becomes Guy Guy. If I ever did that, which I don't think I ever did do that, but if I did, I'm sorry. But that's so weird. I don't see how Gigi becomes Guy Guy. But I guess depending on how someone pronounces um, Gigi, it could be like it's just weird sometimes how some of us like pronounce or mispronounce certain names or words without even thinking about it. Jazz Traficante said, LOL, grandma, dad, joking. Raul said, I've been called worse. Okay, Gigi said it wasn't you. I didn't remember if it was, but that's awful. I don't. That's your name for me would be easy to pronounce, but then again, there are names that I've mispronounced that should be easy. Kevin Arthur Zyminski Jr. said, now you're on to trans subjects, shaking my head. Trans subjects. I'm not sure exactly what trans subjects is. Andrew C. said, hopefully we keep our right to own guns. Yeah, I hope so too. Ben said, people who say who instead of whom. I probably do that. I don't think I rarely use whom, so I'm probably guilty of that sort of um, butchering of language. I'm sorry, these emojis. But yeah, sometimes it's surprising to me how much certain words, how much of a mouthful certain words and names and places can be, especially when I'm talking about anything ancient. Oh, I see. Kevin Arthur Zyminski Jr. said, GG to Guy Guy, trans subjects, LOL Dazz. Oh, I see. You're right. That is a trans subject. Well, at least we're not using the transgender or those gender neutral pronouns like zer, and that's the only one I remember. That would be awful if I started just saying, like, calling everyone here zer, which. Ugh, using the wrong pronoun and getting fined. I need to figure out where those laws are in place because I would probably do something like that. And I wouldn't have the money to afford bailing myself out. Jazz Traficante asks, have you seen the show called The Path on Hulu, Daz? No, I haven't seen it. What's it about? When it comes to like any streaming services, I actually don't use any streaming services. I'm very old school. I had Netflix for like a week, and not a week, for like a month, and then that was it. Hi, Aeon Cage, and I see Ben said I actually identify as an attack helicopter Dazz. How dare you misgender me? I'm sorry, Ben. I'm gonna refer to you as an attack helicopter. And Cage had got called into work. Sorry, I'm late. It's fine. I mean, I understand you guys have lives outside of YouTube, contrary to the belief of certain people. But um, it's always funny that I bring that up because I always have the occasional troll that's like, maybe you should do more than sit on YouTube all day. And I'm thinking to myself, like, boy, how easy would my life be if I got to sit on YouTube all day and do like nothing but like. If I was sitting on YouTube all day, I might actually be more responsive to everyone's comments, messages, and emails. But I do love the occasional troll comment that accuses me of being like locked on the internet all day. But I'll actually, as far as what you're asking about the show, The Path, I'll have to look that up actually. Um, Sorry guys if I'm like pausing a minute. I'm looking on my tablet. I'm using two devices at once, which. Hi, tugboat seagulls, fish and chips. And I see Ralph said we will keep our guns. I love that emoji, but what is that like devil looking monster head between the gun and the smiley emoji? I'm really bad when it comes to like identifying emojis outside of um smiley faces, frowns, and sad faces. Craig said, Dad, sorry to hear that your dog passed. I hope you are okay. Yeah, thanks for your concern on it. And yeah, I mean, it's been weird without him, honestly. Like, there are times I hear other dogs outside bark and I think it's him and it's not him. It's just weird when he used to be the first face I saw when I came back from school or back from anywhere because often I have the house to myself. And now that he's not here, it just feels like, something's missing. But at the same time, I'm not thinking about replacing him with any other animal anytime soon. I mean, he was one of a kind for sure, and it's kind of sad because I thought, the day that maybe I went on camera for the first time that I'd show him to you guys, but now I can't because he's no longer here. And I realized even before that day came where he passed away when he got really sick that I wouldn't be able to show him on camera because he was just too sick. Like, it's just horrible to watch anyone sick and slowly die. Because the arthritis was bad, but what was worse is that he lost the ability to walk after a while. And all we could really do for him is carry him around. And even, it's just so weird how he passed away on Valentine's Day because I was with him that day and he was just so restless. And I left the room and I came back and he went to sleep and he had just died. Like, I picked him up, and I'm sorry guys to go into detail, but it just changes you when you see any living creature pass away. Like, I saw my grandmother when she passed away in the nursing home, and my cousin as well. So it's not like the first death I've seen, and both times I saw it coming because both of them were on their deathbed, but it's never easy. And I see that Ben said, what's your take on there actually being an Atlantis, or there was, but it got flooded and was never seen again? As far as Atlantis goes, I do believe it existed. I think it was part of the antediluvian world that existed before the flood, and I know it goes against modern science idea of archaeology, plate tectonics, and continents, but I think it's very possible that either Atlantis existed as a whole continent or at least as a city that got wiped away from the flood. Tugboat, seagulls, fish, and Chip said, "No, I'm sorry, your puppy passed." Yeah, I guess he wasn't a puppy though. He was like 9, he would have been 10 years old come May 7th of this year, but I enjoyed my time with him for sure. And Cage said, "I live in Canada and we have fairly strict gun laws." I bet. I mean, I know Canada is a lot more, as far as gun control works and even just laws, kind of more liberal and more strict on those matters. Gigi said, "Has anyone heard anything about King James being gay? I heard someone mention it. I never heard it before." "I'm sorry, Daz. I didn't know you lost your fur baby. Very difficult thing to go through." Yeah, it is. And as far as King James being gay, I did try to look. I heard someone accuse King James of being gay before, and I tried looking into that. And I really didn't find much on it, but I have heard that rumor before. But I don't know if anyone has any more evidence of it and you can share it with me, feel free to. But as far as I know, I I can't confirm it. I see Nick C said, "I'm back, squad." It's good to have you back, Nick. And Ben said if King James was gay, he really didn't like himself by making a lot of the Bible go against his own lifestyle. LOL. I mean, it would seem that way for sure. I mean, it would be kind of hard to condemn it in the Bible and then um, live that lifestyle. But he wouldn't be the if that were the case, he wouldn't be the first person to do such a thing. I mean, there are cases of pastors who are closet homosexuals who preach to their congregation for many years against it, and they are living that lifestyle in the down low. And Cage said, "I remember on some of Dazz's older videos, she'd be like, 'If you hear a noise, it's just my dog. Oh, keep your head up, Dazz.'" Yeah, I did used to say that in old videos. It's just so weird, like, how quickly my time with him went. Rouse said, "I've had large dogs mostly, and they love big, but die too soon." Yes, it's true. He was a Labrador Retriever, so he was a bigger dog. However, he never grew to his like full size because I don't know, but he was kind of like he always was a little heavier set, and we put him on like a strict diet, and even then, he still was pretty muscular. He kind of followed after his dad's footsteps because his dad, whenever we adopted him from a breeder, his dad was like kind of short and he was also really thick. Actually, his dad was tall and thick. And he ended up kind of thick like his dad, but he always had like this muscle mass even under all the weight he lost when we put him on a strict diet. But you're right about them dying too soon. Andrew C said he was just the kind of England at that time of the KJV translation and people wanted to use his name for it, something like that. Oh, just the King of England at the time of the KJV translation, and people wanted to use his name for it, something like that. I don't remember too much on it. And I see he made the correction there. I mean, that very well could be because when it came to like writings, often the king's name was put on whatever it was. Rouse said on labs are the best. Yes, they are the best. Nick C said my big dog same died in 2015 before I went off to college. Rest in peace. Yeah, it is like really hard when you lose your dog. It is. I mean, it's different than the loss of a human, but you know, you spend good time with them, and I am thankful, as I always say, for the time I did get with him. And at least I know, you know, if dogs I don't know as far as souls go, but I like to think dogs are in heaven, so I like to imagine in heaven with all of the other dogs that have passed away. Ben asked, "What's your thoughts on Bruce Lee? I think that he was near superhuman in his philosophy and his martial ability. I mean, you hear him talk and he seems wise beyond his years." Yeah, Bruce Lee was an interesting figure. I remember, like, my dad was a big fan of him, um, and his movies, and his last movie he did, my dad always used to watch it a lot. And it always got me, like, how in that movie, how he was, like, seeing demons and everything, and just makes me wonder if life imitated art there. Because it seems like, I don't know, as far as martial arts go, there was a guy I talked to one time, and I don't know how much he really knew or didn't know, but he claims, because he was into martial arts, that there was a level of, um, well, obviously martial arts has spirituality in it, but this guy was kind of warning me about it because he had been into martial arts and he felt like there was a certain level of demonic energy was able to tap into when he was doing martial arts. I will never know. I've never been into martial arts, so I can't say for sure, but when it comes to like certain energy that people tap into, I believe that energy does come from a source, and often some of those sources can be like demonic in nature. But he was an incredible fighter, and like watching him in movies, seeing his interviews, I agree with you there. He had a certain presence and way about him. Andrew C said, "I hopefully I ride a lion in heaven." I would love to ride a lion too. Nick C said, "Revelation said they're going to be animals, I think, or Daniel." Ral said, "All life is an energy and never dies." Andrew C said, "Strange creatures are in heaven guarding God's throne." Revelation. I remember that. I always found it interesting, those four creatures around God's throne. Nick C said, "The movie All Dogs Go to Heaven better be true. I'll tell you that much." Yeah, I would love for it to be true. I remember that movie as like a child. It was so weird, the second one. Like really weird. I remember that one of the dogs went to hell and he got his tail nipped and he got devil horns. It was Disney. I think it was Disney. Disney movies were always really weird looking back. Like anything that I watched as a child, even non-Disney movies, I look back at it and I'm like, how in the world did I watch such a weird thing? Gigi said, "I've heard, don't know how true, some people who are really great have demons helping them, so it would make sense with Bruce Lee." Yeah, I mean, that's the unfortunate thing, because a lot of people who have the most magnetic energy often, there's usually some spirit behind them, whether it's God and the Holy Spirit or it's Satan and, demonic spirits. And I do think, I mean, we hear stories about people who are in the music industry, even, who have spirits that they channel or they have alter egos. So it does seem to be a trend among a lot of really famous people or people that achieve success. Rao said Revelation is full of animals. Yes, it is. It is full of animals. It makes me wonder though about some of those creatures, like even the ones that are like evil per se, like the Locust Army, how they describe them, like they have hair like women. Um, I'm not doing a good job of this, but they look like they have hair like women. I know that they have like horse like bodies. I might be mixing them up with those other, the six trumpet where they come out of the Euphrates, but there is a lot of interesting creatures described in the Book of Revelation for sure. Nick C said some symbolic. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there is some that are symbolic, and then I think some of these creatures just seem so abnormal because they're. I'm a firm believer in that a lot of portals are being opened in the Book of Revelation with the trumpets and with the judgment that bring out creatures from heaven and hell that, well, more from hell, I should say, that would look really strange to us here on earth. Andrew C. said the strangest one is the one that is full of eyes all around it, that has eyes all around it. Do you know which verse that's in? With the eyes, because I'm not quite remembering it that well. But even when you think about like the description of angels in the Bible, like the way it describes some of them, like having like multiple wings and even multiple heads, it's very interesting because the way we depict angels in paintings, it's always like a human with wings. And I'm sure there are angels, obviously, that look very human because we know that in Genesis with Lot, that he was visited by the angels, the two angels, and the men of Sodom thought they were other men that they wanted to have sex with. So we know that they can look like men, um, but we also know they can look very non-human like as well. Rouse said, I think there's a lot of code to do with them. Code for the way the animals or creatures are described in the book of Revelation, I'm guessing. Is what you're referring to? Andrew C. said Revelation 4:6. Let me pull it up real fast. Okay. It says, also in front of the throne there was what looked like a sea of glass, clear as crystal. In the center around the throne were four living creatures, and they were covered with eyes in front and in the back. Whoa. I remember the four living creatures, but I don't remember the part about them being covered with eyes. That is so weird. That's hard for me to imagine, honestly. I'm just looking at, because I had the NIV version, where four beasts full of eyes before and behind. Interesting. I just wonder what exactly. That's really hard to envision, like creatures with that many eyes. And I wonder what kind of eyes, too, because I always think of like human eyes before I think of like a creature's eyes. That they are four living creatures. Andrew C. said amen. Question mark. And Nick C. said gotta be symbolic. Gigi said, I don't remember the eye thing either. Creepy. Yes, I don't remember it either. That is weird. Like, I've read that so many times, and I don't ever remember reading that. I mean, maybe some of you guys do. I mean, I know that, like, I don't know if Craig is still listening or not. And I know I had him on, and then I had Nils on that week, and we talked about, like, the Mandela effect in the Bible. But yeah, it makes me kind of wonder and question that, like, what the heck? Because I do not remember the eyes thing. That's something that would have stuck out to me for sure. Ben asked, can I send you a link, Dazz, about Bruce? Yeah, you can send me the link if you want to. And Nixie said it's a reference to Ezekiel. Maybe I'm thinking of the verse in Ezekiel. Maybe that's why I don't remember it. Do you remember, like, exactly which verse in Ezekiel it was? Because I do remember the four living creatures in another place. Let me see if I can look it real quick. I'm sorry if I can't spell Ezekiel right. So, Ezekiel 1:5, I guess. Also out of the midst thereof came the likeness of four living creatures. This was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man. That's interesting because here it's likening them to man, but then in Revelation 4:6, it's saying they had eyes all over their body. So, do they look like men with a bunch of eyes all over their body? That actually sounds just so creepy. Rouse said, I remember the Slimmer or Slimer on Ghostbusters had 8 eyes, lol. And I see Nixie is referencing Ezekiel 1:18 and 10:12. Let me look those up real fast. 1:18 and okay. So Ezekiel 1:18, as their wings they were so high and they were dreadful. and their rings were full of eyes round about them four. Hmm. So there it is talking more about their eyes. And then here in Ezekiel 10:12 gives me the whole verse 10. And their whole body and their backs and their hands and their wings and the wheels were full of eyes round about, even the wheels that had four had. That is so interesting. I'm sorry, that just gives me like a new image to the four living creatures altogether. Hi, Linda Pearl. And I see that Greg Caddis said, Daz, I'm listening. I just finished eating and I'm ready to do some truth telling and hopefully waken people to what's going on with our Bibles changing. And Rao said, that's an Enoch. Just really quick, because I'm curious, Roused, I had to look up the Slimmer, I don't know if I'm saying that right, on Ghostbusters. I just want to have a visual. Oh, this thing. I remember this from the new movie. Uh, that thing is so weird. I see Gigi said, why isn't Enoch in the Bible? Actually, why is there so many books missing from the Bible? I hear there should be like 80 or so. Yeah, they did take out a lot of the books. I actually bought a King James 1611 Bible. They still don't have the Book of Enoch in it, and I know that I believe it was removed by the Council of Trent, but in the Ethiopian Bible that Coptic Christians use, they still have it in there. So it is interesting why they took it out. And some will argue that if it was God's inspired word, that it wouldn't have gotten taken out. But personally, I think they do it as far as trying to keep us from knowing certain information. Craig Gaddis said, Daz, please tell me you can see the Bible's changes to your own KJV. Please be honest, as I know you will be. As far as like, okay, I have a confession. So it depends. I read different Bibles depending on like where I'm at and like how much time I have. Since I drive to school and I don't have a lot of time, I actually been carrying around one of my old Bibles I had from childhood. It's like a kid's Bible, so it's actually NIV. So it's harder for me to see the changes, at least in that Bible. I haven't noticed anything changing. As far as like my King James 1611 Bible, it's all Old English, and I haven't really seen anything, at least in that one. Um, when I go online and like some of you guys point to things, at least on these internet sites, I'm looking and I'm like, I don't remember reading that in other times I've read the Bible, but at least the ones I've had in my possession, I haven't noticed anything too much. Nick C said, and I see he's replying to Gigi. Ral said, maybe I was thinking about Big Trouble, Little China, lol. Yeah, I was wondering, because I was like, where are all the extra eyes on it? Is Big Trouble in Little China, and I'm guessing that's another movie? Jazz Traficante said, no, there's the dude from the Mucinex commercial. No, that's the dude from the Mucinex commercial. It does look like that guy from the Mucinex commercial, but this Slimer is. It has to be the Slimer. There's no way it's the Slimmer. Um, just really quick, guys. I'm sorry. What's that Mucinex? Oh, Mucinex mascot. It does look so much like the Slimer. It's like they could be twins. The difference is that this one has like they both have teeth, but I'd say that the Ghostbuster Slimer has more roles and he doesn't cover up, whereas this Mucinex guy, he wears shirt and pants and he has legs. Sorry, I just had to compare and contrast because when you brought up that he looked like the Mucinex mascot, I couldn't help but think the same thing. Andrew C. said, LOL Daz, I read ESV, no shame, LOL. Well, Craig had his put a frowny face there. Josh Day put a laughing face, and Nick C said gotquestions.org. Gotquestions.org, and this is Andrew C said, gives you direct, clear answers for questions. I do like that site, actually. They do break down a lot of questions as far as like understanding certain parts of the Bible better. Gigi said, I love that movie. I should buy it. Was it Kurt Russell who was in it? And I'm guessing she's talking about the movie mentioned by Roused. And Craig Gaddis said, these Bible changes are bringing in the Antichrist as Jesus. They are trying to make Lucifer the good guy, and they will deceive many people. I can definitely believe you there, because I mean, if people's Bibles are changing where they feel like, they're misreading things, then that can make a difference. And I see that Ben told me he sent me a link. Let me go to my Gmail account real fast, guys. Okay.
With Wix, you can create your own professional website for your business. This is Evan, a Wix user and founder of Dodo.
Okay, guys,
tell you what, Evan,
we're gonna watch this.
There are no
short
holes
clip really
in
fast.
this website.
You see, actually, I do not teach, karate, because I do not believe in styles anymore. I mean, I do not believe that there is such thing as like a Chinese way of fighting, or the Japanese way of fighting, or whatever way of fighting, because unless human beings have 3 arms and 4 legs, we will have a different form of fighting. But basically, we have only 2 hands and 2 feet. So styles tends to not only separate men, because they have their own doctrines, and then the doctrine became the gospel truth, that you cannot change, but if you do not have styles, if you just say, well, here I am, as a human being, how can I express myself totally and completely? Now, that way, you won't create a style, because style is a crystallization, I mean, that way, it's a process of continuing growth.
Do you still think of yourself Chinese, or do you ever think of yourself as North American?
You know what I want to think of myself? As a human being. Because, I mean, I don't want to sound like, as Confucius say, but under the sky, under the heaven, man, there is but one family. It just so happened, man, that people are different. I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now, you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now, water can flow, or it can crash. Be water, my friend. Like that.
No, I see. I get the idea.
Thanks for sharing that video, Ben. But yeah, just looking at those interviews, and just like even the way he talked about martial arts, it does seem like he was highly spiritual as far as, practicing it. And it does make me wonder, like, about what was going on with him during his life and at the end of his life. But I don't think I've seen anyone who measures up to him present day in martial arts. And I see Ann Cage said, awesome, I come back on a Bruce Lee video. Yeah. And if any of you guys ever at any point, like during a Q&A session, want to share a video, like send the link, like Ben just emailed me, feel free to do it. We can discuss it, because now that I know how to screen share, it gives us a chance to discuss and look at videos. Nick C said, no problem to Gigi. And Raul said, It's an interesting research about Bruce Lee and his son. I'd recommend it to all. It is interesting. Even like I remember his son in the movie. I'm trying to look it up real fast since I have like 1,000 tabs open. Okay. Bruce Lee's son's name was Brandon Lee. Okay. Brandon Lee. I remember him in The Crow, like that movie. It was such a weird movie. It was really dark looking back. But I just remember this movie, and they are an interesting family to look into. And a young Cage said The Crow. Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. I like glance back at the chat and I see the answer to what I was asking. But yeah, I remember that movie so well. And just definitely a lot of interesting vibes going on in it. But yeah, we have not seen anyone like him, or even much like his son, as far as martial arts goes. And Rao said he was only in part of the movie. You're right. I guess I just only remember the parts with him. But it's been a while since I saw it too. And Anne Cage had a very gothic vibe in The Crow. Yes, very gothic indeed. And it was a 90s movie, if I'm 90s or 80s. I can't remember. For those of you who are better with time. Craig Gaddis said, the most important thing in the world going on today are reality and history, and Bible's changing, and we're discussing Bruce Lee. He was incredible, however. I mean, Craig, I see what you're saying, and we definitely can talk more about, the Bible changes, but Ben had suggested earlier just to talk a little bit about Bruce Lee, and it really is a Q&A session, so we're all up for, anything's up for discussion in terms of talking. But I plan to have Craig back on in a couple weeks on the 5th, and we can definitely talk more about the Bible changes. Which brings me to another thing, actually, that I forgot to bring up at the beginning of the stream. But for those of you guys who are interested, next Monday stream, so the 26th, I know that some of you guys requested in the past that we do a stream that covers like dreams or any like experiences anyone's had with with night terrors, nightmares. Just contact me before next Monday or on Monday and I can give you the hangout code, but I'll try to have those of you on there who want to share dreams, and if no one for whatever reason wants to come on air, we can just talk about dreams in general in the chat. But my hope is that some of you guys will be interested in sharing dreams, or if you know anyone who wants to talk about their dreams, then just let me know. I see Jazz Travacante said, I don't know about when it comes to martial arts, doesn't seem like it's such a bad thing. I don't think martial arts in itself seems like a bad thing. I just think that it really depends, I guess, how deep you go into it. Because a lot of things, when you get higher up into them, it has a spiritual component for sure. Craig Gaddis said, I had London broil and potatoes, and that it is a good, important topic, just saying. Frowny face. Don't worry, Craig, you'll get your chance to talk more about it. Jazz Travacante said the Chinese are an enigma. Andrew C. said, yeah, I think God's word is fine. I think we can trust it. Rao said, I'd like to talk of the sun in 12 months. Can you expound more on what you mean by the sun in 12 months? I'm not quite understanding that. And Nixie said, Satan is a created being. He can't go back in time. Way too much credit. And Craig Gaddis said, I believe they get possessed by demonic spirits. I definitely have a hard time believing in time travel for Satan as well. I mean, I do think there's ways that people maybe could change scripture. I don't know, like when I have Craig on again, since he knows a lot more about this, he can try explaining this more. But in terms of time travel, I'm still a little on the skeptical side as well, in terms of Satan himself or anyone being able to travel time. But if there can be changes made to different versions of the Bible, which I know there are changes being made because there's been examples, like the example I had that Craig presented last time he was on air, uh, about the lion and the wolf instead of the lamb. I mean, the wolf and the lamb instead of the lion and the lamb. Those changes are very profound. Craig added said, I believe they get possessed by demonic spirits, and I'm guessing he's referring to martial arts. And Cage said, Bible says if any man changes the words, it doesn't say people can't change God's word, or it would say the Bible couldn't be changed. I agree with you there. I mean, it does say in the Bible that parts can be changed, just like parts can be taken out as well. And that's where we get a lot of these lost books from. Craig Gaddis said, I have looked into just a little and look who they worship. I mean, there's definitely a spiritual component when you look at like martial arts and even taekwondo. And as I said earlier in the stream, I did talk to someone for a short period of time, like offline, who had been into it, and they did warn me about the spiritual side of it as well. Nick C said, Face Like the Sun talked about that example, Dazz. He had an old PDF of the 1611 Bible. Yeah, I actually have a copy of the 1611 King James Bible in my possession that I read from time to time. It's really old English. Like, so far, I haven't noticed any changes in that Bible itself since I've had it, but there are definitely parts of that 1611 that have been taken out for sure, like the Apocrypha section of it. And the Apocrypha really gives you so much insight into a lot of the other Old Testament books, even like reading 1st and 2nd Esdras, and seeing how prophecy plays out in those two books versus just looking at the rest of the Bible, which is important, but there is a lot of interesting and hidden information that, for whatever reason, was hidden until recent times. And Nixie said, so he resolved that example about the lion and the lamb in Revelation. Gigi said, look at John 3:15 and 3:16. Nick, I'll have to grab my Bible and look up that verse about the lion and the lamb now that you brought it up. Before I'll have to look it up and see what it says. And Gigi, let me look at John 3:15 and 3:16 really quick. So John 3:15, and it reads through, I'll read to 17, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have eternal life. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. For God sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world, but the world through him might be saved. As far as John 3:15 and 3:16 goes, for the most part, at least from what I remember, in this version, it reads the same to me. And then the Isaiah 6 reference to the lion and the lamb. I'll have to look into that. Craig Gaddis said there are a lot of weird, unusual things happening in Japan with demonic spirits and other Asian cultures. They're all root to Satan. I mean, a lot of cultures in general across the world were into paganism at one time, are still into paganism, and we do see a lot of strange demonic activity like that goes on in different parts of the globe. Rouse said the Bible is the truth and Jesus does save. It's in a totally different way. That's what's described in all the versions. Okay, let me look at Isaiah 6 really fast, Gigi. I'm not. Okay, let's see. Oh, wait. No. I was going to some blog. Okay, this is the one that on air I looked at with Nils and Craig. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf, and the young lion, and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. That was weird when I read it that time because I remember it being the lion and the lamb. Craig Gaddis said all Bibles now say wolf instead of Lion of Judah, where Jesus Christ is the lion and the Lamb of God. And Rouse said it's been constantly changed. And when it comes to like being constantly changed, I know like there's some like passages within the Bible, depending on like the translation, things can also appear different. Like I have the Septuagint, and then I know the Septuagint, when you look at a passage of Isaiah, when it talks about like the Sadars, in other versions it calls them Saram because, Sadars and Saram, but they're still the same creature within mythology essentially. Saram is just like the Hebrew name of a Sadar. Craig Gaddis said, I'm saying that our Bibles are being supernaturally changed. Yes, supernaturally through CERN, D-Wave computers, quantum entanglement. I don't know how they're doing it, but it's being done. Nick C said maybe a different reference is lion and lamb. I mean, we can try looking that up. Let me look at Revelation 5:5 real quick and see if we can find another version that could say that. Because I was looking this up and I see that it does give this as a reference. And of the elders saith unto me, weep not, behold the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book and to loose the seven seals thereof. But that says nothing about a lamb. It does seem like that passage has been changed from what I'm looking at. And I can't seem to find anything else that necessarily looks like what at least I used to remember and others used to remember. Ben said, I mean, it's almost like the different scholars throughout the ages have changed it due to certain things happening in those times. Nothing too special. Craig Gaddis said he will not find lion in any Bible today. Andrew C. said, good theory, Ben, maybe. Craig Gaddis said, totally removed to bring in the Antichrist. Nick C. said the song How Great Is Our God by Chris Tomlin made us remember the lion and the lamb more, maybe. I mean, I do remember that song for sure. And it is possible. I mean, I do think things get changed from time to time depending on who translates and take it out. And like I said, Craig, I'll have to talk more to you about it whenever I have you on air so that you can like provide more examples of it. But I will say that the lion and the lamb, for me at least, I don't remember a wolf and a lamb for sure, because a wolf and a lamb really stands out because wolves eat lambs. Lions can eat lambs too, but the wolf is like the primary enemy of a lamb. Gigi said, hang on, I have a Bible dated in 70s, so I'll look. Well, thanks. Yeah, it'll be good to see that. I almost want to go get if I can find my King James 1611 Bible really fast and see if I can look at it too, but I'll have to leave like for a couple minutes, guys. So I might take a quick break. And I'll be right back. All right, everyone. I'm sorry for the long little break that I took. Let me look back in the chat. So I actually found two Bibles in my house, the 1611 version and then the another version that I have. It's not King James. So in the one that's not King James, it says the wolf also will dwell with the lamb, and the leopard will lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a small youth will lead them. So that does say wolf as well. And then in this other version, in the 1611, it also says, the wolf also shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf, and the young lion, and the fatling together, and a child shall lead them. So yeah, both versions, both olds, do seem to say wolf as well, which is kind of weird because I do remember the lion and the lamb. But I will say that that song by Chris Tomlin, it does make me think more about lion and lamb as well. Craig Gaddis said, I believe I am called by God to speak the truth and makes people aware this is a matter of people's souls and eternity, heaven or hell. And I see while I was gone, Andrew C. was asking everyone how they were. Ben said things change. That's me trying to read Sumerian books on farming and it being translated thousands of times and then thinking it's going to be perfectly translated between different translators. And Ben also said who might take certain twists on the book and be more PC or non-PC depending. Sorry guys, I'm like trying to scroll down this chat. Nixie said, I don't know, it seems like all we have is our memory when we were our kids to depend on. No, I mean, it does seem like, at least my memory doesn't remember Wolf and Lamb, but at least those two versions and everything I've looked up so far, it says Wolf and Lamb. Rouse said Jesus is the Son. He dies, leaves us on the 22nd of December, then resurrects on the 25th every year. The disciples are our months. The Bible is to let us understand the greatness we have on earth. Oh, I see what you're saying now. So you're likening it to kind of like the months and to the solstice. And what about the equinox in that theory, Roused? And Gigi said, nope, no line. It says wolf. Okay, so I'm not the only one. Craig Gaddis said, I cannot and will not chill out when our reality and history, and especially our Bibles, are changing supernaturally. How could I explain myself to God for not warning others? And Nick C said, yeah, I see, I knew it. It was just our weak memory. Gigi said, that is too weird. I swear, I remember the lion laying with the lamb from childhood. Yeah, me too. Hi, Angie Pittman. And Gigi said mine was KJV. Ben said, but it also said lion. Are you referring to like the lion and the fatling? Craig Gaddis said, this is a salvation issue for those who will believe the lie about Lucifer being God. Lucifer is Satan, evil, liar, murderer. Craig, just for clarification's sake, because I know that you've brought to our attention this verse, but I remember you and Neil saying when I had you both on, and maybe I can ask you more about this on the 5th of March, but what other scripture in terms of people believing the Antichrist is the Savior can you point out? Just out of curiosity, since it seems like half the people in the chat aren't convinced. And I see Andrew C. is asking, how will we believe Lucifer is God? I mean, this is all just, I don't know. I don't remember, I can say from childhood, any of that, like the wolf thing, but I also understand that sometimes there are translation changes. But I know, and let me look up, I just have to look up this song. Because it was brought up, Chris Tomlin's song, How Great Is Our God, and I remember that song. And he does sing about the lion and the lamb. I definitely think that hearing songs like that can also affect how we think about that passage as well. I think I remember even seeing some paintings of that depiction. Not of a wolf and a lamb laying down, but a lion and a lamb. I see everyone's asking Craig a bunch of questions. I don't know where he went, if he's just like typing or away for a few minutes. But if anybody else has any other questions in terms of anything else that we've talked about or anything unrelated to this, you can throw the questions out there or any comments you want to make. Craig Annis said, Jesus told us many will come in my name and many false Christs. I proclaim the truth and I will let it go for those who cannot or refuse to see the changes. Ben said, I thought Ariana Grande was on Disney when in fact she was on Nickelodeon. Human memory is trash. This is why I back written stuff on a computer. Nick C said, how was your day, Dazz? My day's been alright. I had a test today. It just feels like an off transition away from something so serious, but how has everyone else's days been? It's been cloudy, rainy here, and it's been like every other Monday, I guess. As far as even, I just wanted to thank everyone as well. For those of you who did pray, whether you're in chat right now or not, and you listen to this later, when I did do the presentation I was nervous about that I brought up like 2 weeks ago, I did it last Tuesday, and it was nerve-wracking. And my teacher made me and my partner present for like 2 hours instead of the half of the class period. So I had to do a lot of talking, which is not something that I like to do. I know that on this stream I talk a lot because I'm the only voice you hear, but offline I'm not a very talkative person, except when I'm around like close family and friends, but I'm glad that it went well enough. Rouse said the commandments are real. Craig Addis said, I did not come here to offend or upset anyone. Craig, I'm not offended or upset by it. I was just like wondering, like question wise, and like I said, you can expound more on it on the 5th of March, but I don't know. So I think some people just have a difference in opinion, or they need more evidence, just because it's kind of a hard thing for many to believe. Gigi said, ew, I remember tests in college draining. Yes, tests in college are very draining. I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not much of a studier when it comes to tests. Like, I spend so much time doing the homework, writing the papers, that it's almost like my form of studying. I usually end up having to cram study, but a lot of it comes back to memory just based on making myself do every little assignment there is. Nick C said disagreements doesn't equal hate, so it's okay. Totally agree with you there. No hatred, or no hard feelings. C Monstar said thoughts on how so many righteous people throwing away morals and values to chase the cryptocurrencies. Yeah, the cryptocurrency craze. So it does seem like a lot of people are pushing it, and in all honesty, it seems like eventually, the federal government's going to catch on to the cryptocurrency thing and offer their own, and it's going to lead to the mark of the beast. But I feel like a lot of people are just excited because, the Bitcoin went up in value so fast, and a lot of people just, like any craze, want to jump on it as fast as they can and get rich. But it does seem like a lot of people have been really promoting it, especially those within the truth community. Andrew C said 2 hours. Oh, heck no. Nah. Yeah, 2 hours of talking. Like, she's like, oh, you guys have to lead the first half of the class, and it's a 3-hour class. And then, like, the day before the class, my professor, she changed up the routine on us and said that we were going to have to, she was going to talk about it first, and we'd get to talk about it. And so me and my partner ended up taking about the rest of the class period. But yeah, it is hard to talk about, like, a chapter you read for 2 hours. And the other awkward part was the girl I presented with, she was also another quiet person. So my teacher was really pressing us to be talkative. And even after I feel like I talk more than my comfort, my professor still wrote me a note saying that I need to be more of a leader and that I'm particularly quiet. And I was like, really? Really? I've already talked more than I'm used to talking, and I'm still considered particularly quiet. But I guess that's the struggle of being an introvert. Craig Gaddis said, I'm here to speak the truth and share what I and many others are witnessing this past year and a half. Nick C said, 2 hours, that's punishment right there. It did feel like punishment. I mean, I did engage my class a little bit, and I did try to slip in every now and then because it is sociology, so I get to talk about society. I did try to slip in this little piece about fake news without being too blatant and all, but I have to be careful with my classmates and my professor for sure. Craig Addis said, I could talk about 9/11, false flags, Sandy Hook, Florida hoaxes, fake moon landings on flat Earth, so many deceptions out there. We are brainwashed. I mean, there are a lot of deceptions, Craig, for sure. Ann Cage said, well, you just have to remember when you proclaim that you have the truth and others don't see it your way, you have to accept that and move on. I mean, I agree with you there. There is a level of having to realize you want to do your best to help those who are in deception, but then you also have to realize you can pray for them, and sometimes you just have to shake the dust off your feet and keep going and find those people that do have eyes to see and ears to hear. But it can be hard when people don't readily accept something that's been revealed to you right away. Hi, Armando Beck, and I see he said, what are your thoughts on Manly P. Hall? You're making me think of Morals and Dogma. And he was a Freemason. I honestly have not. I did try to read Morals and Dogma once, a couple years ago, and I quit reading it because I get too distracted easily. But I know when it comes to him, he talks a lot about Freemasonry, but I'm not the biggest expert on Manly P. Hall, in all honesty, Armando. Andrew C. said, I do appreciate being a watchman, though. I'm not against it. Ben said, I always say, in the streets, a real gangster doesn't need to shout about, he just knows it. Being relaxed and calm is a good trait of a confident person. Sorry, guys, if I'm scrolling past anybody's. I mean, it is nice to be calm, but sometimes, you're so passionate about something that you just want to get it off your chest as much as you can. Especially when you've been burning to tell people, but I also understand being relaxed about it. And I see that Craig Gaddis said, yes, I just feel compelled to expose the deceptions and evil upon all of us in love. I'm happy to hear and see, and I see he's talking to Gigi. Gigi asked, Dazz, are you also ADD? As far as that goes, I'm not sure. I've never gotten diagnosed with it, but I used to get told by my first grade teacher that hated me that I didn't know how to follow directions and I didn't pay attention. So I'm sure if I was a kid and I would have gotten the chance, I probably would have gotten diagnosed with ADD. Craig Gaddis said, the truth doesn't come easy for many, including me at first. However, the truth, Jesus Christ will set you free. P.S. Now it says, make you free, changed. Something that it's kind of been on my mind since just kind of a free-for-all chat, but I know last week I covered nightmares, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about that in the stream, but then I figured because we're doing a dream stream next week, I could kind of wait on the whole nightmare talk just because I don't want to be too repetitive one week after the next. But I definitely would like to elaborate more on the whole nightmare dark horse aspect of all of it. Sea Monstar said, I've lost all of my friends stepping into the truth. They're all stuck in their old ways. That seems to be a common trend because a lot of people you hang around, they're interested maybe in a lot of this to an extent, and then they get completely uncomfortable. I remember trying to send YouTube videos or articles to people about some of this stuff, and they never texted me back whenever I sent any video that was a Truther video. And that really, really was no fun, but I understand sometimes people don't want to hear it for whatever reason. People are more likely to like be into the conspiratainment type of videos. Like if you send them a video exposing their favorite celebrity or like talking about like um, blood sacrifices and a celebrity, people are more into it than they are into some of this other stuff for sure. I see Ben said, "Hey guys, I gotta go, need some sleep for college. My parting wisdom is don't eat yellow snow. LOL. Hope you guys have a good night, morning, wherever you are." It was good having you in chat, Ben, and I hope you have a good night. But there's definitely that loss of friends whenever you do try to share a lot of this stuff, even with family sometimes. And then the more you get into it, the worse it can get. And I see Craig Addis, and I see that first Rouse said, explain equinox. If it's a reply to what I asked, yeah, like how does equinox fit into like the sun, Jesus, and the 12 disciples and the 12 months and all that you said? I guess that was my question to you. And Craig Addis said, please forgive me, everyone, for shouting from the rooftops. However, who's going to warn others, pastors, ministers? They are silent and scared or do not believe in the spirit supernatural. I mean, I see what you're saying. I mean, have you ever considered making videos on this sort of thing and uploading them? Or if you're able to write like blog posts on it, or sharing videos with creating like I know Google Plus and other, or even creating like a Google Plus or Facebook group to kind of discuss Bible changes. See, Monstar said, almost like their minds reject it, like the info hits a brick wall. Very much so with family as well. And Andrew C. said, family are the hardest people to reach. Yeah, because a lot of people, when they hear this stuff, they get really like defensive or scared. Either they feel like you're accusing them of not knowing anything. And I really do think it's the approach that matters, because I have seen some people who consider themselves to be like truthers, truth seekers. Sorry guys, I don't know how big the chat is on here. I'm just like moving it in closer. But some people who claim to be in just seeking the truth, they do kind of come at people in a really strong way. Like they insult people as soon as they're like they go to explain it to them. And that can be a turn off to some people as well. Like I've seen some people that create videos. It's one thing to tell people like how you woke up, but for me it can be kind of a turn off when the narrator of the video is calling everybody asleep, everybody dumb, everybody an idiot, everybody knows nothing. It's like they're the only one who knows the truth. They're the only one with the answers because they're so enlightened because they took the red pill. I get that when you understand certain things that others don't, there can be a level of frustration, especially when you've tried to explain it to family and friends and they looked at you like you were cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But at the same time, when you're making videos like saying that everybody's asleep, everybody is dumb, you hold all the answers, to me it kind of comes off as a little arrogant and prideful. But some of us, we really try in the nicest way possible to tell people about, hey, you should look into Sandy Hook, and see all the inconsistencies in it, and sending them a video or just trying to explain it, and they'll immediately turn a blind eye to you because they're thinking to themselves, like, just stop already, okay? Like, I've had people do that, like, just stop, okay? I don't want to hear it, like, no. And, like, they, like, half cover their ears about everything you say. So there is that issue you get to, for sure. But yeah, family, friends can be the toughest because they're the closest to you as well. And a lot of them even get to the point where, like, I'm really scared for you. I'm really scared for you. You've been watching too many crazy people on the internet, or, I'm really concerned. You really shouldn't talk like that. Like, because not only may they be concerned for your well-being, but they may also be concerned about how hanging out with you or being related to you may affect their image in society. but it does lead to a lot of alienation, for sure. Nick C said the gospel itself is offensive to people because it tells them that they are evil. I would say that is true because when you talk about the gospel, a lot of people hate that word gospel. Actually, that reminds me of something that happened to me in class when I did the discussion. And I found it really strange that my professor said this, but when we were, it was only like 20 minutes of class left, and the first half is supposed to be the class discussion with the two people she picks to be the leaders for the week. And then the other half is supposed to be a discussion over a second book we're supposed to read. And 20 minutes were left, and I'm thinking to myself, are we even going to go over the second book? So she kind of like interjected herself into the conversation, and then she looks at me and my partner and she tells us, well, can you guys bring it to a close? So as soon as she says that, she goes, and not with prayer. And I was like, what? Like, how is that funny? Like, when she said, and everyone was like wide, like their mouth hung open, like, I can't believe she just said, not with prayer. And I was a little taken aback by that whole, like, what's wrong with prayer? And then after I said my last piece, because I was actually the last one of us two to talk, one girl jokingly goes, amen. And everyone started cracking up. But there does seem to be kind of like a either indifference towards the gospel or people mocking the gospel. And I'll admit this too in my classes, like, especially I'm around a lot of people. It depends on which department you're in, because here it's still fairly, I'd say, more conservative. But I'd say that the sociology department is full of more people that lean more left who tend to be less religious. And I do feel kind of like a fish out of water because I'm so into the Bible, I'm so into theology, but a lot of the people around me, even if they're members of the church, they don't see the Bible the way I see it. And to them, they're more observing Christianity from a cultural way than a biblical perspective. And I see Nick C was laughing at the Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs reference, and so was Andrew C. Craig Gaddis said, most people will not believe me, and I understand, but it's just one person sees the light. I have done some good. Hallelujah. Andrew C said, I haven't had that in a while. Yeah, I haven't had Cocoa Puffs in a while either. Rao said, everyone watch the sunrise with the skin of your feet in the ground. Talk to God. Craig Gaddis said, my family thinks I have gone cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and many friends as well. I cannot make people want to search for the truth. They must want to know it. I agree. It does take a level of agreement. And Andrew C said, wow, shaking my head on your story, Dazz. Professors like to take shots at Christianity in secular colleges, universities. College isn't always a safe place for Christians, especially if you don't know what you believe and why. So it's tough for a lot of people. And Gigi said, wow, how rude. I'm one of those little rebels, so yep, I would have ended it with prayer. Andrew C said, LOL, Gigi, you're a warrior. Yeah, I almost felt tempted to do that. I mean, it was just like, why would this woman say that? Like, we weren't even talking about Christianity or God, and she just had to say, not with prayer, like all snarky. And I'm just like, what's this woman's problem? But you know what I think it is sometimes? I think sometimes when, like, we're following after Christ and we carry that with us, even when we don't say anything about scripture or the Bible, it's like people can sense it. And I have noticed some people take shots at God in front of me for no particular reason. And I feel like even if they don't, because it's not like I walk around wearing crucifixes or crosses or carrying a leather Bible around or, preaching on top of a carton, which I actually saw that at my campus. Like, there was a guy walked out of the student union and he was standing in the courtyard and he was standing on a cart and he was telling people to repent. It was like really random, but I saw that like last fall and I was in awe. Like, wow, someone is preaching to repentance. That's odd, especially at like a university. But I definitely noticed there's a lot of anti-Christ sentiments from people when it comes to the gospel. They definitely don't want to hear it. And Nixie said, what school? I would tell you the school, but it's kind of small, so it'd be easy I'll tell you guys once I graduate, but I'm going to keep my school private. It's a state school, and my state. But despite like the people in my department, I would still say that my school is fairly conservative. Like my evolution professor in the biology department, switching departments, um, he always is taking like he's always making jokes against Christianity because after all he's a geologist, so he's in the science department. But he was upset because at one point my school actually banned the teaching of evolution, and they fired the second president of our school for trying to teach evolution. And I see that Andrew C said that's kind of rare, sounds awesome to see. And I see Nick C said, okay, that's fine, Dazz. C Monstar said, most people have lost themselves to the parasite infestation within them. I agree. Andrew C said, Buffalo State needs Jesus desperately, I'll tell you that. I bet, I mean, a lot of these college campuses, it's crawling with a lot of unbelievers, and I'll say that I feel really blessed that because I did 2 years at community college, actually 2.5, and then I took a semester off and came to the university. And this is my second year, so altogether I've done about 5 years of undergrad. But it always helped that I had family that was strong in faith and I lived near them, and then I have you guys, an online community of other believers to talk to, because some kids they don't get that and they go away to school, they have a bunch of people railing against Christ and they slip in their faith. But it does seem like it's getting better for some Christians because they're able to connect to each other. Craig Gaddis said, evolution professor. I laughed today thinking about evolution and Big Bang theories. By the way, is anyone feeling the 1,000 miles per hour spin right now? No, I'm not feeling it at all, Craig. And Nick C said, apologetics help me prove haters wrong. Praise God. Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be those that hate, and there's always going to be an era of, people in academia for the most part, they're self-absorbed with their knowledge that they know about. But it usually goes against the Bible. Not always, but I mean, there's good people that are teaching college classes. I don't want to say they're all like, antichrist or scum, but one thing I found interesting is that a lot of my professors, like, I used to be a biology major, and biology, it's kind of funny, biology and sociology have often been used to try to belittle like religion in general, but especially going after Christianity. And I find aspects of each interesting. I'm always cleaving to my faith regardless of what anyone says, but I would always notice some of my like bio professors would make jokes that would kind of try to belittle miracles in the Bible. Like one professor was talking about like I can't remember the story right now, but he's like, it wasn't a miracle, it actually was, and he explained it with a scientific process. Even though the funny thing is most of these people go to church every week, so it makes you wonder what their pastors are teaching them. For sure, because not all of them. I mean, my evolution professor, he's a atheist or agnostic, apologetic, but a lot of my other professors, they go to church every Sunday, but they like rail against Christianity, or as they like to say, fundamentalist. And I see that Andrew C said, I believe in the Big Bang. I just know who banged it, God. Craig Gaddis said, last time I got drunk a while back, I did start to spin, but it was about 5 miles per hour. And Gigi said, I have vertigo here and there, lots of spinning. Yeah, I mean, vertigo is not a cool feeling, but the 1,000 miles per hour spin. Craig Gaddis said, might be the electromagnetic energy all around us causing the vertigo. Could be. I mean, between that and then what they're spraying in the air and then what they're doing to our food, it's almost like we're being doped every day with all kinds of chemicals. For sure. Oh, I didn't realize. Sorry, guys. It's like 10 minutes till, and I didn't even realize I didn't put screen sharing back on. It's kind of late to do that, but I just now figured that out after I came back from the break. Gigi said mine started 7 years ago, and Craig Addis said I don't like being poisoned. Me neither. And he said I really, really hate chemtrails. Me too. I definitely hate chemtrails. I mean, the thing that's frustrating is you can find truth mixed with the lies often, and air pollution is a growing problem, especially for those who live in lower income areas. But they're also spraying chemtrails in certain areas and not in others. And it's making people sick in so many different ways. But of course, they say, oh, it's just the pollution from people driving cars. And I definitely think cars can produce its own amount of pollution, but some of that's also them spraying the air. And then, of course, hospitals make money off of sick people. And it's just a constant vicious cycle, and it's a way to depopulate people. Andrew C. said maybe that's why birds are dying and why people are getting viruses. Yes, it's sad. I mean, I think about how like at least when I was in the biology department, they talked a lot about like how there are those who go to study like birds who are dying and fish that are dying in lakes. And usually they blame it on pollution, but they probably don't factor in the pollution from the chemtrails that they're spraying the air with. Gigi said, I don't even know how long it's been since I've seen the sun. That's terrible. Must be in a highly chemtrailed area. It's not the greatest here, but I'd say it's better than other areas. I mean, I think being in the middle of the country and stuff helps a lot. But I know, if you get into more urban areas or areas toward the coast where they're more populated, where they have more of an agenda to reduce the population, there definitely is more instances of chemtrails. Plus, they blame a lot of the asthma cases on air pollution but I'm sure some of that comes too from the chemtrails as well. And then you consider like even some housing areas uh, have lead paint that's used in the walls, and some people are living in areas with lead paint. I mean, it's just insane all of the pollution that people's bodies are exposed to. Craig Gaddis said, "Where's Nils Ottison? He can see today what happened to our nice warm yellow sun. Now it's white hot and friendly." I don't know where Nils has been. It's been like the third week since he's been MIA, but he might be busy. Um, not quite sure. Gigi said, I watched something yesterday, and she said when you get flu shot, you're more at risk to have it the next year because it messes with your system. I can definitely believe that. I mean, essentially, who knows what's in those vaccines? And then I always found it interesting, like how certain people they got vaccinated or they got their kids vaccinated and then they had autism. And I know that people say correlation doesn't equal causation, but it's just too strange if you ask me. And I don't believe in coincidences either. Rouse said, I still don't know the whole truth, but I know lies. I'm happy for that. I never believed any of my teachers. Nick C said, I'm not getting any needle shots. Me neither. I mean, you just have to be very careful. I mean, I think when it comes to education, there's definitely an agenda to socialize us to be good laborers. If you're born wealthy and you live in an elite family, they're teaching you how to run the world. And that's the problem with education. And too much of the time, too many of us to have even a decent paying job so we can support ourselves. And if we ever plan on having a family, we have to go through the education system. But understanding how to navigate it so that you don't become indoctrinated with rubbish, but you also can understand enough to get through the workforce. It's its own balance to strike, for sure. Craig Gaddis said, I still love your voice, Dazz, and your willingness to be open minded and search for truth. And Andrew C. said, everyone likes Dazz's voice, Craig, lol. Gigi said, I have a needle phobia from childhood, poked weekly, it seemed. Oh my god. I couldn't imagine being poked weekly with a needle. That's tough. I don't have a needle phobia, but I just, shots just are horrible altogether. Nick C said, last time I got a needle, I passed out and ended up in the hospital for 3 days. What did they put in that shot, I wonder? See, like, blood drives? I'm going to be honest with you guys. Like, I don't know how much I really trust giving my blood. I mean, I understand there are people that need blood, and I'm not even the biggest fan of, like, organ transplants. And I mean, if I were in a situation where I needed my organs to be replaced, I probably would just allow myself to die before taking on another person's organ, just because I don't know, to me, I'd feel weird having somebody else's body part in me, even if it saved my life. I mean, I feel like if it's my time to go, it's my time to go. And I would just pray for healing or just leave the earth. But even when it comes to like giving blood, it just seems like I don't know. I don't necessarily know if I trust the process. I've never given blood, and I know people that did give blood and they passed out from doing it. Or for me, I think I don't drink enough water. I'm starting to drink more water, but I've never tried it. Plus, I get lightheaded so easy. I don't know why. Gigi said on top of it, my mother wanted to practice on us while in nursing school, lol. Man, that seems tough though, like practicing on you by drawing your blood. C Monstar said the saddest thing ever is that having a family at this point in time is almost impossible to conceive. Hard to stomach bringing another life into this world at this point in time. Totally know what you mean, C Monstar. Having a family is difficult. I mean, economically, it's hard to support a family. And even if you have the means to do so, you have to usually put them through the education system at some point. Even if you homeschool them, what about college? Unless you have enough money to give them to invest in a business. So it is difficult. And then things are just getting crazier out there. But I'm with you on that. I mean, honestly, it's not in my future, as far as I know, my planned future to have children, for sure. But if that was what God wanted, then I'd do that. But right now, I'd be too afraid to, with all the things they'd be subjected to. Craig Addis said, does anyone realize how many shots they give babies for the first 2 years? Heard it was more than 30 plus. Oh, that sounds so terrible. It's giving babies all those shots. It's like, what are they putting in these kids' veins and bloodstream? Maybe this is leading to some of these disorders later on in life. Andrew C. said, last time I got a needle poked in me, I started seeing black spots. Ouch. That sounds really intense. And Gigi said, no, she did finger pokes, earlobe pokes. Ugh. Oh, I see. Oh, that's still so terrible, though, like being poked that many times. We got like 2 minutes left before the stream ends, but if you guys have any more comments or questions, but just as a reminder, next week is the dream stream or nightmare stream, whichever way you want to look at it. We talk about all things related to dreams, sleep. If you want to talk astral projection or any of that, then get in contact with me. Or even if you have a story from someone else that you told me. And if you have a video that's related to dreaming or the process of dreaming you'd like me to play during the stream like we did with the Bruce Lee video, you can also contact me about that as well. But I'll probably remind you guys in the next video as well. But we only got a minute left, and really fast looking at what you guys said. Gigi said, I can watch someone bleed to death, but if I see one drop of blood, I hit the floor. I wonder why that is. And Craig Gaddis said, depopulation agenda, Georgia Guidestones. Nick C said, doctors catching the hands next time they try to poke me, lol. All right, guys. It was a good chat with all of you, and I'll talk to you next Monday about dreams and anything related to it. But thank you all for chatting with me, and check out next Wednesday's video, and God bless.